Hi, everybody. Craig Shacklett here with our we're going to call it the Casino Marketing University podcast interview series. And I've got a longtime friend and an expert, I would say, in the world of casino marketing from the eyes of a player. He is the publisher of the Seven Stars Insider newsletter, as well as a writer in the Atlantic City Weekly, where he is Mr. AC Casino. Darryl McEwen, how are you, sir?
Good, Craig. How are you? Good to talk to you.
Yeah, good to talk to you as well. I don't have any titles, and you've got Seven Stars Insider and Mr. AC Casino. I think that's pretty cool. You're like a superhero.
Well, you've got a pretty good title there. Aren't you CEO and all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah, I know. My hair kind of cringes. The hair of my neck stands up when I hear that, just because it's not like we've got 10,000 employees. A CEO.
Yeah.
It's like I'm CEO of a very small business, but whatever. It's
Well,
I'll take it.
it's a good business, and it sounds like it's successful. That's the important thing.
Yeah, no, well, thank you. It was a lot better when all the casinos were open and the cruises were sailing, but it looks like we're gonna restart soon and head in the right direction. And why don't we start off with that? So and we're filming this April 8th. So it's early in April by the time folks are hearing this, and maybe a couple weeks from now. But what is the vibe in Atlantic City? What are you hearing up in the Northeast?
It's pretty good. I was there last weekend, as a matter of fact. I had some friends who were traveling to New Jersey, and I hadn't seen them in a while, and so we decided to meet at Caesars. And I was pleasantly surprised to see the crowds. It seemed very busy. Had a chance to meet with the new general manager of Caesars Atlantic City. They've had a bit of a shakeup there with some of their management. Joe Lodise, who used to be down at the Horseshoe in Tunica, has moved up north, which is nice for him because his family is up from that area. And there's a new general manager also at Harrah's. So I think we're going to see a lot of new ideas and a lot of good things coming out of those two casinos. And not to just stick with Caesars, but Tropicana also has a new general manager, and it's Jackie Grace. And she's the third woman, actually, to be managing one of the 9 casinos there. So that's nice to see in this day when everybody's complaining about diversity and so forth. Jackie's doing a great job. It seems like every week I see her doing an interview somewhere. So she's become the good face of Tropicana and Caesars and Atlantic City.
That's great. And so you brought up a good point about, there's new management comes in, you expect to see new ideas. In your experience, because you've been a Seven Stars for a while, you've published the newsletter for how long now?
I think it goes back to 2009, believe it or not.
Yeah. So how long does it normally take for the new general manager to come in for you to actually see changes as a player?
For now, a lot of these changes are going to happen pretty quickly because they were put into place before these folks took office, if you will. And again, not to just focus on Caesars, but I am most familiar with them. Part of the deal when Caesars and Eldorado merged, or where I should say more correctly, when Eldorado purchased Caesars, there were a lot of recommendations that had to be put into place to have the merger authorized. So a lot of them were upgrades. The Eldorado had to promise to put in X $1 million into all these properties. So that was already in place, and much of it is already started. But they'll go on a hiatus for the summer because that's their busy time down there. So they're already working on some upgrades to the rooms at Caesars, the Ocean Tower. Harrah's is doing some renovations. And so that's already started, but it's going to have to come to a halt probably around July 1st because that's when the season starts, and then they'll start up again after Labor Day.
And with a new general manager, I know you are friends with a lot of folks in different casinos. I guess, so from a player's perspective, you may see some changes, but maybe behind the scenes, I'm kind of putting you on the spot with a question, but without getting into specific general managers, but have you heard like what are some of the things you hear from employees? Like, oh, the new general manager came in, man, they're nailing us on this, or they're really focused on this, or what do you generally hear when a new GM comes in?
Well, to be honest, and I'm not hedging here, it's all been good. These guys and gal come with a history, and they're in their positions for a good reason. They are very customer oriented, and uh, they succeed when the customers are happy. So Saturday I mentioned something about meeting with Joe, the general manager, and some of the employees. They said, "Oh, wow, isn't he great? Boy, we really," and so that's nice to hear, and it's good feedback for him that he's obviously doing the right thing. But these guys are all very personable. They're very customer oriented. I spoke with a friend the other day who is a big player at Harris, and she mentioned that she was having a meeting with the general manager and her host, and I met with him about a month ago, and same thing. I mean, he's just bursting with ideas, and he was asking me what thoughts I had, and he said, "Please don't hold back." And I said, "Well, I think if you've been following what I write, I don't hold back." So anyway, I was very impressed with that, and the same feedback when I went to dinner later, and I went to the Seven Stars Lounge. Somebody said it came up somehow. I was meeting with him, and he said, "Oh boy, isn't he a great guy? And we really like him." And that's it was very sincere. So I'm glad to hear that. So we'll see what happens.
That's exciting. And is the capacity limits in Atlantic City, they've been being loosened, right, lately?
Yeah, not much. I mean, it went from 25 percent to 35%, and I think it's eventually going to go to 50%, and then eventually we'll be back to quote unquote normal. But yeah, it seems fine. It doesn't. The casinos don't look empty with those restrictions. The restaurants are frankly very comfortable. It wouldn't bother me if they kept them at 50%. But no, it's loosened up. I mean, for a while you couldn't get a cocktail, in the casino after 10 o'clock. You still can't smoke. I'm not a smoker, so I don't miss that. And a lot of those are all, as I think most folks know, these are all state regulations. And a lot of the casinos are getting blamed for some of this, and it's really not fair because they're just following the rules that they have to follow to keep their licenses.
Now, I want to transition to, I sent over some questions because what you've been doing at Casino Marketing University, which is our new LinkedIn page, by the way, it's a little plug. Look at Casino Marketing U. We've been asking some players about their casino hosts, their experience with casino hosts, what they like, what they don't like. And so I wanted to get into that because I know you are very self-sufficient. Caesars has a great portal where players can see their offers, and I know you are again, very self-sufficient. You can book your own trips, but you have hosts everywhere, and I know you hear from a lot of players that have hosts everywhere. So I want to ask, I guess, first question, what do the best hosts do that sets them apart from other hosts?
Well, the quick and easy answer is they're responsive, and they're responsive in a very timely manner. I think the worst thing that a host can do is to ignore their customers and not get back to them. And I realize, they're not supposed to be on duty 7 days a week. But and so, if they educate their customer that, hey, listen, I'm off on Sundays and Mondays, don't expect to get back with me from me, then that's a help. But there are some hosts who they don't seem to have any sense of timing, and people will write to them for a room reservation or for register for a promotion, and people just don't hear back for 3 or 4 days, and that's sort of inexcusable. One of the first things that I remember I wrote when I put together the Seven Stars Insider website was really a recommendation to the hosts, and I directed it to the customers and saying, please ask your host to put an out of office reply. So at least when you don't get a response to an email, and you don't hear for a couple of days, as a customer that, hey, Susie or John is off on Tuesday or Wednesday, and you shouldn't expect to hear from them. they're not supposed to be at your beck and call 7 days a week, 24 hours. Some of them are. Some of them are just absolutely amazing. But I really appreciate it when somebody says, hey, I'm off, and whether it's their voicemail or their email, they deserve some time off too, and I wish they'd take it because it's a very demanding job, and they need a respite from us obnoxious customers.
So what would be I know it's tough to say and everyone's patience threshold is different, but you mentioned 3 to 4 days is unacceptable. And I think that's totally fair to say. What's kind of an ideal for any host listening? It is their day that they're working. What do you think is a reasonable timeline to get back to somebody?
Well, if possible, the easiest way, but this takes time too, is to respond as quickly as you can. And the response would be, I got your email message. Give me a little time right now. I'm backed up on a number of things. Give the customer a little bit of a time frame when they could expect to hear back from you. I think that would solve a lot of problems. Because you can't expect to have a host or anybody get back to you right away. And if you can, all the better. But if not, at least give your customer a bit of a time frame of what they can expect to hear from you.
Yeah, I want to echo that, and I totally agree because we tell our team that because if a request goes and it's just in the ether, use a player like, did they get it? Are they working on it? And there's just kind of and it's like loose ends that aren't tied up, and it's just I think it's human nature to be frustrated and just wonder about it. But to your point, if they just reply, got your email, I'll get to it tomorrow, or like set some kind of proper expectations, you can put your mind at ease and then worry about it when they, later.
And I think that a host can tell, depending on what the request is or the reason for the phone call or the email, if it does require urgency. A lot of times, if somebody's writing and saying, gee, I need to get a room, and it's a month away, then, again, I don't see, you don't need the urgency. And to your point earlier, yes, I'm guilty of being the self-sufficient person who, when possible, I just make my own reservation. I don't see the point. And again, every casino operates differently, and I'm not talking about every casino and every casino chain. And I can't verify this because everybody has to keep some business secrets. Some people say, well, listen, if my host doesn't make the reservation, he or she doesn't get credit for my play. Other hosts will tell me it doesn't make any difference if you make your reservation or I make it. It's a similar situation to if you just go for the day, which many people do, especially at Atlantic City. You don't even have a hotel reservation. So, it would make sense that why would your host not get some sort of credit for your play, whether you're staying there or not, or who makes the reservation. But I just find that, I'm a very last minute person. I'm basically retired. I'm self-employed. A lot of times, I'll get up and I'll think, gosh, I don't have a whole lot on my schedule today. Atlantic City's a 90-minute drive. I'll look and see what kind of offers I've got, and I'll say, hey, maybe I'll just head on down there after lunch today or after I check my messages and so forth. So it's just easy to go on the Caesars portal or some of the other casinos. Immediately whether there's availability. I'm not so hung up on getting an upgrade. A lot of people, oh my God, if I don't get a suite, that's a big deal. So that's why I say it's just easy. Make your own reservation. If your credit card is on file, it's even easier. You get a response. You've got an email. So if you show up and God forbid they say, oh, we don't have a reservation for you, you can pull out your cell phone and say, well, here's an email saying that I have it. So I just think it's just easier. This is somewhat related, but not. But this is how bad it can be with some customers. And I don't care whether this person hears me saying this or not, because I sort of I read the riot act in my responding email. He said that he was at X casino and he had a lovely suite, and as if it was, expected. But he said, my wife and I opened the refrigerator and there were all these half opened bottles of water and soft drinks and cheese plate. And I called my host and I didn't hear back till the next day. And I gave him this, I said, I read the riot. I said, why did you call your host? Call housekeeping. That's not your host's responsibility. That But some of these people just they are so, I don't know whether it's insecurity or they just feel that their host is their servant. But I mean, please, folks, just think about it and don't call your host for every little thing if you're having a problem. That one just really made my day in a negative way. But I thought, why don't you just call housekeeping?
Right. Now, because a lot of our audience for this interview is going to be casino professionals and people in the industry, the response time, it's not just pissing off or upsetting a player. It can actually hurt the bottom line, because I assume, like you said, sometimes you have a last minute, you're like, I think I'm going to go. If your host doesn't get back to you in a certain amount of time, you probably have another host in the market that you can reach out to. I mean, is that something that you hear about or you've experienced firsthand, where it's just, I didn't get a response fast enough, so I had to go a different route and book a different property because
Yeah, I hear that occasionally, but people are pretty dedicated. I found in over the years, if they're a Caesars player or a Caesars Atlantic City player or a Golden Nugget player, they're pretty devoted to that. And I think it would take a lot to get somebody to make a move like that. I would think that they might send a text or maybe make another phone call and say what's up, but. Yeah, I think it would have to be something pretty severe for somebody to jump ship and go to someplace else. But I can't say for certain. I mean, I've cut back. I used to play at a lot more places in Atlantic City. My excuse was that, well, I need to do my homework and make sure I know what's going on everywhere so I can write my column. But I did like the variety. But now that I've gotten, as I say, older and don't move quite so fast, I've cut back. I play now maybe at only 3 or 4 of the casinos out of, which is still a lot out of 9, whereas I used to play almost everywhere.
Darryl, you should have said, yes, if you want to fix the problem of hosts being responsive, you should have used this platform to say, yes, absolutely. I will. If a host doesn't get back to me in 2 hours, I go next door.
Well, there are people who do that. You're right, but most people are pretty loyal to their home casino, and it takes a lot to push them. And many people, I'm sure you've heard that, if their host moves, they'll actually go to that other casino, which might not be part of their, let's say if it's a Caesars Rewards casino and their host goes to an M Life casino, they'll go without any hesitation. So that's a host can really make an impact on a customer and make them the reason for the loyalty, not the casino offers or the rooms or whatever, but their personality and how responsive they are.
So that's really interesting. So because that is something too that I think there's some debate, or maybe there's just some players that could care less about the host. They are driven just by the loyalty program the offers, but some go with the host. You touched on it earlier, I think, with responsiveness. Do you think that is the main thing? It's like, I know when I work with host X, they get back to me quickly, everything is taken care of, and so I'm going to follow them over here because I know no matter what property they're at, they'll take care of me.
Yeah.
Is that it? Is that what you think?
I think it happens. I think it happens a lot. So it's and a lot of people are more demanding. I mean, there are people I know who, they expect their bottle of XYZ rosé waiting for them. They may not realize that they're being charged for it, but it's just those kinds of things. And again, I don't have those sort of special requests and so forth. I think I just want a room for the night, So, but that's where a host, I think, even if you don't use them for reservations and so forth, as I was saying with my host at Caesars, and shout out to Tracy Laura, she's just fabulous. But I had a situation over the weekend where I got an email from a couple who live in Alexandria, Virginia, outside of Washington, and she was the wife was actually, and this is in the days when you could call them that, was my secretary. And this is also in the days when there were no computers. sheet typed with carbon paper and had extra thing, and just a delightful lady. And we don't see each other that much. So they were going to be in New Jersey on some other family visit, and said, maybe we could meet in Atlantic City and get together. And I hadn't planned to go, but I obviously changed my plans, and I didn't want them to get stuck with having to pay for a room or whatever. And I had plenty of comp dollars and so on. So I contacted my host, and they said, what could you do? I need an extra room, and they, made a very nice accommodation, literally and figuratively, for my friends. I took them to dinner, and the general manager, who I've known for years, she fawned over us like crazy, and so my friends were absolutely, overwhelmed by all this attention, and now we plan to go back, on their own. I said, well, not to sound, I don't know what the term is, don't expect this kind of treatment when I'm not around with you, but. It was, so that was a case where, I try not to take advantage of special requests, and unless I really need them. And this was a case where, Tracy made me look good with, getting the extra room, and just everybody at the casino really went out of their way to make us welcome, and they saw that I was with people I'm normally not with. So that that was very nice, and that's something that only a host can do. You need to have a contact like that to do those things. So just if you do have a good host, don't take advantage of them. Don't ask for stupid things and for upgrades, and they basically, all they can do is what they can do. The casinos are much different from the days when the squeaky wheels and everybody could get upgrades and get comped meals. Now everybody's got a player loyalty program that has very specific rules. You earn your comp dollars through X amount of play, and if you want something, that's what those comp dollars are for. And if you've gone through all of them, then you might get a little bit of a compensation, and they'll comp something. But you can't expect, if your play doesn't warrant it, to get a lot of freebies when you're not doing your part. So it's a two-way street, and a lot of customers I just get fed up with when I hear these stories about, well, I didn't get this, and I didn't get a suite, and I didn't get that. Well, maybe your play didn't warrant it, So that's my lesson for the day. And some of these people, I think they write to me because they think I'm going to be sympathetic. And lately, I guess again, maybe it's because I'm getting old, I just don't have a lot of sympathy with some of these people.
Yeah.
Don't ask for too much, because the well is going to dry up at some point.
Yeah, and it happened, it feels like at a corporate level, because I remember when I worked at Harrah's, now Caesars, I guess now El Dorado, back to Caesars. But anyway, it felt like it was right at a transition where it was like bend over backwards for the customer's always right. And then word kind of spread that if you complain, you get what you wanted. And then it became so rampant that then they had to put the safeguards in place where it's
sure.
Like, sorry, we can't please everybody. So.
Well, the Caesars employees have got a good excuse now. They just said, "Well, listen, this is because of El Dorado."
Yeah.
They blame everything on the new owner. So, but yeah, it's just don't ask for too much. Just be reasonable.
And and that is what good management should do: is give somebody something to blame. Like, hey, sorry, you don't have enough reward credits, right? Like, it's not the host having to be the bad guy, not giving the comp. It's like, let's look at your reward credits. Like, they should always put the employees in a position. It is nice to have a little trick up their sleeve where, hey, I could do something. That's what kind of makes a host cool. But it's so much easier on hosts if they can just point to, well, let's look at your reward credit balance.
Yeah.
No, sorry, we can't comp it. How do you like to communicate with your host? Let's say booking you don't book it online. How do you typically communicate with your host?
Yeah, I usually email. And occasionally with a text. I was sort of late to the party when it came to texting, but I'm pretty comfortable now. But yeah, when I need a room or I need something, I just send an email. If it's unless it's something that's really time specific, or there's not a lot of time, I might pick up the phone. I'm just not one to pick up the phone and call somebody about that because I just figure they're busy. It's not that important in the overall scheme of things. So I figure if I send a text or I send an email, that way they can get back to me. They know what their schedule is, and I think they know me well enough that unless I say, gosh, I need an answer within the next hour, which is rarely going to happen, that's the best way. And that gives everybody a little time to respond. And they might have to do some research and check availability. I didn't realize, as a matter of fact, last Saturday was, the day before Easter. And that weekend is a busy weekend in Atlantic City. Plus, it's spring break. So, there were some situations that, might have made it difficult for somebody to book a room. So, you've got to be, just a little understanding.
And then the response, generally you make a request. Do you like to get just done? Do you like to get confirmation numbers and times and like, how do you generally like, I guess, your confirmations?
Yeah, I mean, I generally, again, the hosts who I deal with, when they respond, they generally put the confirmation number, in the responding email, the response. So that's never been a problem. And I've never showed up and not had a reservation. I'm not so freaked out if I don't have a confirmation, but I generally have one anyway, so that's not been an issue. But I think it's just probably a good idea to get a confirmation number. And again, with some of the casino player portals, you can sign on and it'll show you, Darryl, looking forward to your 3-night stay at Caesars Atlantic City beginning on April 7th, whatever. So that's a lot of times that information is in the system. So if you don't get it from your host, you can just sign on to that. And I would encourage everybody to take advantage of those apps that the casinos have because there's a wealth of information. And again, right now, I normally I would make my own dinner reservation, but because of COVID and the fact that a lot of the restaurants are now limited in the number of people, I did ask her to go ahead and make the dinner reservation as well. And so that also showed up on the app. It showed, my room, and it showed, a reservation for 3 people at Nero's. So so those apps are very, very helpful. Even if you choose to use your host to make the reservation, or you can just make the reservation right on the app, or if you're not at your laptop. So they're very valuable, I think.
And then I guess last question is, once you're on property, or actually I should back up. I feel like from my perspective, it seems like a lot of the work, a lot of the interaction with the host would happen before the visit to set up the reservation, set the room up, whatever. Once you get there, generally, like, what are your expectations of a host? Do you always want them to come and greet you? Is it kind of like, hey, if I see you, great. If not, whatever. Like, what are your expectations?
Very low. Again, I always enjoy seeing my hosts when if they happen to show up. But again, I know they're busy, and if they have time, there's this system how they can track you down, I guess, by what machine you're playing, and they know where you are. If I just think, well, they know their time schedules. I don't need that. But I hear from a lot of people that that's very important when they go on a 7 stars retreat, or they go visit an out-of-town casino that's not their own, or even if they're at their home casino, they'll say, well, gee, a host never even stopped by to say hello. Well, did you really need that person to do that, or why are you bringing that up? To me, if a host has the time on his or her schedule and can stop by, hey, that's wonderful. I always enjoy seeing them. I'm blessed with just some terrific ladies and gentlemen who I enjoy working with. So if they can stop by and we can chat and catch up, all the better. But if not, I don't take it personally. I mean, they've got a lot of customers. I mean, I don't know, when you were a host, Craig, you probably had 1,000 people assigned to you. I mean,
yeah, it can vary based on the casino. I mean, but yeah, it's like it could be 1,000. A locals market may be smaller, 300 or 500. But yeah, there's a lot. That's for sure.
So again, as a player, I think you need to understand that they've got more people. They might have 50 customers in the hotel on that night. And again, just lower your expectations a bit. I mean, if you really need to see them, if there's a problem, you can call them. I'm sure you've got the phone number. And if they're not there, because they're not there 24 hours, there's a host on duty who you can contact. So there's always somebody, going around checking on customers, especially if you've got a higher level player's card. They sort of know that you're a 7 stars, or you're a noir player at MGM, or whatever it is. Again, don't be too hard on these people. They work hard, and they often work on their days off if need be. And so just kind of a little slack.
Yep. Well, Darryl, I think any host listening would be like, man, I wish Darryl was my player, because and I know, granted, we work with you through URComped, and we're blessed to have you as a customer. And everything anybody's hearing now, it's true. Darryl's an amazing guy, and I'm looking forward to actually cruising again with you at some point when that all gets done. We'll have to do another 7 stars.
I'm ready.
I didn't plug it earlier, but if you guys haven't, definitely go to 7 Stars Insider. Darryl's not 4th of July, April Fool's newsletter is always the highlight of the year, and it's posted now. I love the adopt a 7 Stars Insider companion, or 7 Stars companion. That cracked me up.
Well, and as you pointed out, that actually, and I didn't think about it, and it wasn't based, but there is some truth to that, because as Craig knows, I was approached by somebody on a cruise that we were both on, and she had lost her companion, and she was no longer 7 stars, and she was almost begging me to make her my companion. And so it is, there's a lot of truth in some of these. Now you got me saying it's 4th of July, April Fools things. They're sometimes based in fact, and I hadn't thought about it. That really wasn't based on that actual experience, but apparently it does happen. So.
Well,
it's on the homepage, just to help people find it if they're not familiar with the website. There's you can get download the last 12 months of the year. Actually, you can download the whole since the beginning, but specific months are there, and just click on April of 2021, because it's a combined issue. The first 4 pages are the fake part, fake news, and then the rest of it is the real newsletter. So,
well, fake for now. I imagine there's probably some things that have been in your April Fools that have actually become real in later years. Like the part in the latest one about them, like the voice activated gambling when you're driving to the casino. That one, I can picture that happening at some point.
Oh yeah, I can too. So it's it's sometimes people will get at me and say, "Don't give them those ideas,"
Yeah. Well, Darryl, I really enjoyed this as always, and so thank you for sharing your insights and wisdom. We really appreciate it.
Anytime, Craig. Feel the same way. You know that. Take care.
All right. Thank you, Darryl.